Good morning, everyone. Today is April 16th, 2026, and this is another live trading session. Once again, we're looking at the same three pairs as always, NASDAQ, US 30, and gold. We'll look at our sentiment first for today so that we can see what's going on. It is currently 8:41, so we're about 10 minutes into New York session currently. We know that in terms of news, we don't have any high impact news for today, as we can see. We know that if we go to our Dow 30 sentiment for today, it has basically came out as bullish. There's a couple scattered bearish stocks in here, but for the predominantly, it's come out as bullish. And then we have NASDAQ, which same exact premise for NASDAQ. It's predominantly come out as bullish, with a couple of bearish stocks that are currently scattered inside of it. And lastly, we have gold, which sentiment for gold has come out as bullish as well. So when it comes to charting premise, as we've talked about, here's NASDAQ currently. We know that if we clean our charts up, we're currently sitting not between a range because we've already technically now swept liquidity. However, we know that we created this high of the day here with this price action at 150 this morning. And then from that high of the day, we know we also had a low of the day that was created with the 5:45 a.m. price action, which is pre-New York. And then the 8:30 a.m. raid basically just took out the pre-New York low, and we are now trading near this low of the day. So we'll see what this wants to do, but as we saw before, our sentiment did, again, for NASDAQ come out as bullish. So although we would expect some form of bullish premise, we know from a higher time frame sake, I don't know if you guys have been in tune with the markets, but we have been nothing but bullish since March 26th. And we just reached that all-time high level yesterday. So now we are trading at basically all-time highs. And then next we have US 30, which US 30 kind of the same premise as what NASDAQ is doing. However, from the higher time frame, again, more bullish stocks than there are bearish. So the sentiment is bullish for today. We know that NASDAQ had the premise of this low of the day, which was created with pre-New York. And then post low of the day here, we know that we also had a high of the day that was created here at 8 a.m. before New York session opened. And then New York opened with this 8:30 candle, and we saw us sweep liquidity. And again, we are now kind of just sitting in between this price range here. We can't really do much about this. We know that it's already taken out the high of the day objective. And so unless we get some form of liquidity that stacks itself towards this low of the day objective, it is probably going to be very improbable for today. And then lastly, we have gold, which gold from a higher time frame perspective, as we can see, it's not really doing all too much. We just clean the charts up here. We know that gold had a high of the day that was created with this 12 o'clock candle. So coming into new day, we created high of the day. And then we also know that low of the day is sitting here with this 5:30 candle, which again is pre-New York. The current premise that we are in, we're sitting inside of a bullish 15-minute candle, but we're also sitting inside of a bearish 15-minute candle as well. So if I take this off, we see we're sitting inside this bullish 15, but we're also holding this bearish 15. And so as of right now, price isn't really showing you any specific direction that it wants to go in. As we already talked about, we do have this bullish sentiment, but we would need to see price break out of this current range that it's in, and then either start breaking highs and creating structure to look to target the high of the day, or start breaking lows, and then structure would be looking to target this low of the day. But that is currently everything that we are looking at in the market. And again, we'll let this session play out and see if today has any opportunities for us to trade. Okay, so yeah, we're basically invalidated for today in terms of what pricing is doing. As we can see now, the main thing I was looking to trade was gold. I was trying to see if we were going to be able to align with a 5-minute going towards this low of the day. As I had already talked about, we came out with a sentiment that was bullish, and that is still holding bullish on gold. So ideally speaking, I would have rather looked for those buys. And look at this thing. I mean, this thing is probably going to run now, especially with this breakout candle. But yeah, we were looking at, as we talked about, we were stuck in between 15-minute liquidity coming into 8:30. So we knew that coming into 8:30, we were stuck in between this bearish 15-minute and this bullish 15. We were holding all the way through pre-New York, coming into New York. We finally got this last stab at 8:30, which ran out of buy-side liquidity. And then from there, we started reverting. On the 5-minute time frame, realistically speaking, I would have rather, or I was waiting basically for a break of that 5-minute to be lower, and then to try and align with shorts from there. From a 1-minute time frame, it did basically walk itself down to this entry. However, this wasn't strong enough for me to take until we had actually broken that 15-minute bullish fair value gap, which is what I was talking about. And as you can see, the candle that broke that fair value gap was 850 candle. And you see from 850 onwards, we basically just delivered straight to our objective. So there's not really much for us to be able to align with there, especially given that we are trying to respect staying on the 5-minute time frame. And then other than that, we basically don't have anything else currently for today. We know US 30 is making its way towards this low of the day after already rating out price action. We know we're 6 minutes until 9 o'clock, so we'll wait till 9 o'clock to see what happens then. But this is currently everything that we are looking at right now. And then as you see, same exact thing with NASDAQ, again, accumulating liquidity and now just kind of tanking. But there is no entries inside of either of these price legs. Okay, so I just got into an entry, so I kind of just want to explain to you what I'm looking at right now. So we had this rally prior to what the day has done. Again, we had this rally higher, which created the high of the day during London. Then we had this huge break off. After this break off, we just retested into the 15, which is what I was talking about prior to this basically execution segment. And then from that, we saw that we now had delivered to the downside, breaking the low of the day. And we've now created an actual efficient price leg in order to take us shorter. So that's basically what I'm looking at. Is we have now created this 5-minute fair value gap here with the 850 candle. I have a clear-cut target in mind, which again, I'm using the key levels here because now that we have created this delivery past low of the day, I see that we are in between the two key levels of 26,375 and 26,250. And so again, with us being in a bit of this no man's land price action in between these two key levels, I am taking the fair value gap in the direction of sales. And again, looking to target this low down here and then looking to break even or to manage our position if we are actually able to break these short-term relative equal lows. But that is basically the premise of what I'm looking for today. And like I said, it's 9:06 currently, so we will see if we deliver within the next 44 minutes of this session. Okay, so another update here, just kind of walking you guys through what my thought process is here. Realistically speaking, I don't like how this has now closed. I would have much rather this closed either bearish or at least stabbing into the 50% of that fair value gap and then consolidating. Although we didn't close above this fair value gap, which is why I'm still able to hold this, we can see that, again, liquidity is still kind of undecided. Hasn't really shown any momentum to necessarily get down to these lows just yet. And then in terms of buyer's premise, what I was kind of talking about earlier was that you have this low of the day here that was swept. And realistically speaking, if we were going to sweep and then buy back to high of the day, I would have wanted to see this be the price leg that sweeps. And then I would have wanted to see from 845 candles onward, us basically start to create liquidity in order to trade higher. We haven't necessarily done that. And so that, again, is what is supporting my shorter's premise for this. However, I'm kind of just monitoring this inside of this fair value gap. We don't really want to see this break this FVG, especially where we are in terms of liquidity. We kind of want to see this fair value gap be held, and we want to see some form of momentum trying to actually take us to sell side liquidity. But that's kind of just the update of my thought process during what's going on here. But as I've talked to you guys about time and time again, once you get into the trade, the only thing that your mind should really flip to is now managing the trade, managing your capital. And even though once you get into that trade, 95% of the time you're going to be stop loss, either stop loss is hit or take profit is hit. Being able to actually look at price and watch it from a standpoint of what it's doing will allow you to kind of mitigate some of your risk. And so that's exactly what I'm looking at now. Look, we've now broken this FVG. It's now 2:19, or we have 2 minutes and 17 seconds left. And look, we've now broken liquidity to the upside. So for this, this is going to be invalid for me. Again, this is probably about to take me out. However, since we've already broken that liquidity, I'll save some money by just closing out manually here. And then that's it. That's my trade for today. Again, this is still bread and butter, but we just happen to take a loss on this trade. That is basically everything that we're looking at for this session. It's now currently 9:13. And so again, I don't really want to deal with what's happening now. There's no momentum, as we can see. Low of the day objective got completed. We tried to play continuation after low of the day was completed with this huge momentum candle that was trying to get us to sell side liquidity. We ultimately weren't able to do that, and our entry got stopped out. So that is everything that we will take for today. We can go over the rest of the pairs real quick. Again, here's US 30. US 30 hasn't necessarily done anything. Here's gold. Gold, again, has now swept that previous day low and has now pulled back into liquidity. And so we can try and figure out what this is going to do for the next 45 minutes. However, given that these objectives are now completed, I am going to call it a day and probably even just call it a week. Again, this has been very low volume, very low probability in terms of how price action has been. And so kind of just preserving capital, making sure that, again, we are currently in a loser's month for me here in April. I have taken 3 losses and 1 win during this month, and it's currently the 16th. So again, we will be back next week to see if any opportunities present themselves. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever the case may be, let me know.